Welcome to the Success Ascent. My name is Pat Mancuso, the creator and host of our show. And today, not only do we have some amazing guests, we also have a special treat. So I think I found an opportunity for me to travel and meet some amazing people. We are in the GGMS coaching studios today doing our Success Ascent. And in full disclosure, we are going to be interviewing the co-founders of the company, Mike Gallagher and Josh Jankowski. And in full disclosure, they are clients of our consulting company, and yet they're doing amazing things as entrepreneurs. So I am excited to be in their studios today. And look what they did. They actually made us a logo on the back of their equipment. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited you're here today. Let me tell you a little bit about Josh and Mike to start off with. Josh and Mike are the founders of GGMS, Gallagher Group Marketing Suite, and a digital marketing system built exclusively for Sierra Interactive that currently services over 500 real estate teams and thousands of agents across the country and including Canada. GGMS's mission is to help real estate businesses close more transactions by leveraging scalable lead generation, digital marketing, and automated solutions. So Josh, Mike, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks, Pat. Thanks for having us.
So guys, what I always do when we kick off the show is I say that was Josh and Mike on paper. Tell us something about Josh and Mike that isn't on paper.
Want to go first?
Go ahead.
Oh, first off, Bucks world champs, right? We're going after it again. So that's one thing that we love down here in Tampa. But off paper, we're both family-driven people. We love our family. We love community, friendship, those kind of things. And we love building great teams and helping businesses grow. So that's our big thing.
That is our big thing. And I'll give you a personal thing about me that's not on paper that for most of our clients would seem maybe like a shocker. Maybe they would expect it. But I didn't get my first email address until 2011. And now people, just 10 years later, pay us to build automated systems for them. So what a journey the past 10 or 11 years have been.
That's kind of interesting. We'll have to talk about that later on. I did not know that in your pre-screening for you as a client. So guys, let's talk. So you're entrepreneurs. You've co-founded this company, highly profitable, successful, growing, impacting a number of people's businesses. So I want to talk to you about your entrepreneurial journey because this isn't your first venture into business. So let's talk about what you've learned in your entrepreneurial journey.
Oh, wow. So that journey has been one of the hardest, toughest, most wonderful things that I could try to describe. And like, I've been a person who watches and listens to motivational videos, and I try to pay attention to people who are successful. And they all have these stories about how, you just got to keep grinding. You got to go through it. You have to feel the struggle of the thing. And I kind of thought it was BS, right, over time. And then as we started building our business, as we started going through those struggles, hating them as they were happening, but then once you get on the other side of them, you actually feel the growth that happened from that struggle that you had to go through. And for me, I think that's one of the greatest lessons in this whole process is, how to navigate and get through these different points of adversity as you're going through this process.
Yeah, I agree with you. 100%. It's the reward that comes from making some of those sacrifices, right? And the people who are willing to do the work, the people who are willing to drive through some of those major challenges, oftentimes are the ones that get rewarded the most. So for us, that going through that entrepreneurial experience and really just continuing to stay committed and break through different barriers, lean into the failures, right? So as things happened, they continually do. Just make sure, you're learning lessons. That's a major takeaway from all of this.
So let's talk about some of those lessons. So if there was one or two significant ceilings that you broke through and lessons that you learned and maybe put them into categories, what have been the biggest lessons you've learned or ceilings you had to break through and maybe the struggles that you went through before you did that?
I'll start with one of the things that we've learned is slow down to speed up. And the best example I can give, and any of our clients are watching, they went through this with us, but Mike and I started out in lead generation. We quickly realized that it was the follow-up that was necessary to get to the conversion that was needed. And I lost my train of thought here. We started off in marketing. Sorry. We started off in marketing, and then we realized it was the follow-up that we needed to get to the conversion. And in that process, we then later on decided to launch lead generation services again, right? After we had a good bit of clients. And when we did that, we made the mistake of not slowing down first. And we just said, all right, let's launch it. Well, we had about 80 or 90 appointments scheduled on the first day. And probably most of you don't know what that takes, but to get somebody onboarded up and running on Google PPC and Facebook and Instagram retargeting and things like that, it's a lot of work and it takes some setup. So I think that particular lesson and how it really changed things in the office, let's say, for a good bit of months while we got through that, that was a huge lesson. And it made it very clear that what we actually have to do in business is to plot things out, plan them out, step back, slow down, get it planned out properly, and then move forward. And that is probably one of the most important lessons we've learned.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And, the thing that I would add to it is a lot of times when you're an entrepreneur, you have this, I can do everything attitude, it just comes with it. You want to be a leader and you want to be a pioneer, you want to be an innovator. But one of the biggest lessons is just taking time to build the proper team. Right. So going through hiring processes, vetting processes, and making sure that you're building a team around you where you can realize your vision, your mission, and what the goals of your company are. And you can do that through other people. So one of I think the biggest mistakes that hold a lot of people back and held us back for a long time is us trying to manage so much of the business on our own and not have a good team or foundation around us to help us really catapult to the next level.
Huge.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that struggle a little bit, because when we met, you obviously were moving in a direction, and through the consulting we've done and the conversations we've had and the implementation, you've changed that direction. And that wasn't easy. That was painful. And you actually a little bit went backwards to go forwards. I mean, you were at a point, you had people doing things, and then you made some change in direction, and then you got some of those things back. And now moving forward, you're reestablishing, building that team. So what have been your ahas about hiring and about that journey?
So that's 100% correct. And in that, you see it in sports teams a lot of time. We're going through a rebuilding phase, right? Like they clear the whole roster out, they bring a whole new roster in, and they rebuild. That was similar to what we've done recently. So what we knew is we needed some stronger players. We needed some people around us that could really help take us to that level. So that is some of what we needed to do, and what Josh was alluding to earlier, which is like, slow down to speed back up, right? So we needed to take a step back, look at everything that we're doing, and have like a reset, right? And just reset the operations. And it's tough when you do those things, and it takes a major commitment, and it's not an easy thing to do. You've got clients involved, you've got families involved, you've got all kinds of things going on. But when it comes down to, sometimes doing what's right for the business, if you're running your operation in a direction that maybe is not where you need it to go, or what's going to get you to your goals, sometimes it's better to just break those habits and really form new ones and go down a different path. So Pat, you have helped us tremendously with the hiring process on this. So that was something that we've been consulting with Pat, and he's brought tremendous value to our business in, identifying, selecting, and training us really on how to identify talent, how to hire talent, and then how to keep the talent, which is one of the biggest challenges. It's not just finding it, it's keeping the talent around you and keeping them excited and engaged in the process.
Well, and what happens, guys, is we do it entrepreneurially without a system and without a model. That's what many entrepreneurs do, is they do what, they maybe run into somebody, they feel comfortable with them, they think they could do the job. And so, it's just been amazing to watch you guys and watch you grow through this process, and really just kind of being open to learning and being open to, understanding how behavior comes into the process. So I want to stick one last question in here on your entrepreneurial journey, because that's what the Success Ascent is about. So if you had to do it all over again, or you were in front of an entrepreneur who was starting a business, what lessons that you have learned would you share with them so they could shorten the curve, if you may, of what you've gone through?
Oh man, there's about a million things that could go into that. We held on to doing all of the different tasks and all the different jobs in our business for way, way too long. Probably partially because as we went from 0 clients to getting to clients, money is a thing, right? Like, and so then when you start making it, you want to kind of keep it. And then you're like, well, I'm not going to pay somebody X amount of $1,000 per year if we can still do it. That was a big mistake.
Well, I think you also get into the servicing of the client,
Yeah,
right? You start
right.
ramping up, you start having the sales and the growth, and you see all these things start to come together. And then you get somewhat stuck.
You get scared to offload that responsibility on somebody who might not know everything that you know.
Right.
And maybe we were a little bit insecure in our ability to pour that information into these people.
Yep.
And probably that has to do with not selecting the right people to go through that with in the first place. One other thing, though, that I would mention that I think is key that I did not think would be that as important is actually getting a coach of some type. In our business, we coach people on getting conversion and how to operate and deal with online leads that are generated. And there's multiple different types of coaches to get out there. Even if it was to actually, without paying for coaching, just to seek out people who have the information that might help you if they're willing to give it to you. Trying to learn and take advice, I think maybe would be what it is I'm trying to say. Trying to learn and take advice from people who've been through it would be probably a better idea than what we tried to do, which was trial and error along the whole way.
Yeah. You know what? First of all, obviously coaches and mentors and consultants are so critical to businesses, and they do cut down the curve. And, there's certainly an investment there in coaches and consultants and sometimes mentors. And yet what they do is they help cut down the curve. So I want to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to still stick in the entrepreneurial world, but I want to go back to, so your backgrounds in real estate. Both of you have, real estate related backgrounds, some mortgage related backgrounds. And as many people know who follow me, that's been a lot of my background. And you guys found a niche in the market. You found something that although people could get access to, they weren't really taking advantage of. In other words, I can go buy the software program off the shelf, any shelf, and yet I can't just buy it and plug it and play it for me. And so how did you come up with this idea to create GGMS? Like, how did that kind of form?
Yeah. That's a pretty good story. Part of that, like the major thing that was found in all of that. So I have a real estate background, licensed in real estate, moved to Florida from a different state, didn't have a sphere of influence. I joined Keller Williams. Everybody, get a hold of your sphere, contact your sphere. Well, I didn't have one down here. And sure, I could and did contact people back home. Hey, if you know anybody. But I'm, 1,500 miles away from where home was, right? So down here, personally, I really got into lead generation. That was my thing. Online, develop leads, all those kind of things. Josh and I ran into each other at a convention, actually here right on the beach, 15 minutes away from here. And that's where the two of us, our paths collided and found each other, right? So in that, one of the things, Josh has amazing ideas of how things go. You were working in ClickFunnels at the time. I was building landing pages, driving traffic back to things, working in the chatbot thing, and all these kind of little fun little experiments or whatever. But what really happened is we started working together in the chatbot space for a while, and we brought one to market. We sold it to real estate agents, helped a lot of people in their business. What we quickly learned was it was too far outside of, too far removed from the CRM. We needed something that was actually built within the CRM. And once we got into working inside of Sierra Interactive, we were mainly focused Josh was helping me inside of my real estate business because we had shifted gears a little bit and got away from the chatbot thing and went more down the path of, real estate and ramping that all up. And in that, we were building all of these, the things that we're doing today, the things we're delivering were things that we were doing during that time period, building landing pages, driving paid Google and Facebook traffic, building out action plans that dealt with the different sources. And what we quickly learned is that a lot of agents had the similar problem, which is we wanted to do all these fun things, but we don't have the time, we don't have the knowledge, or we don't have the capabilities to tie all of this stuff together. So that's really what we've been able to do, and what the void that we filled inside of the real estate industry is being able to plug them directly into a system.
Yeah, Pat, if I could just add to that real quick. So I mentioned earlier in the call here that in 2011, I got my first email address, but I've been in sales my entire life, phone sales. I worked at a flea market when I was like 7 years old selling T-shirts. I was just prior to working with Mike, I came from lending, lead generation, sales systems, and that type of thing. But it was for mortgage services. That primarily was a reverse mortgage program. It was refinancing of those loans. Most of you probably don't know about that program, but it's a very high paying loan, right? So at some point, they changed the rules for that program. I knew that happened, and I had just scaled up that business. We were doing pretty well, and they changed the rules, right? So I said, you know what? I'm going to have to try to do something else. I'm going to try to figure something else. There's got to be another way to do this.
Right.
So what it turned out to be, though, is that, there's a ton of technology out there. I went and got ClickFunnels, like Mike mentioned, but I didn't know how to do it or use it, right? That was one of the first conversations we had. I was like, dude, can you help me with this? I'm an idiot. So anyways, the point is what we have become basically, and what we realized as we started going down all these paths and all these journeys was that agents needed a bridge between the gap of the technology that they have available to them and how to get it to do what they want it to do without spending 6, 8, 10, 12 months trying to figure it out themselves.
Right.
If you were to sum up what we do, it's basically that we make sure that these all-in-one platforms, or that Sierra, the all-in-one platform that we operate in, every feature, every function that they have that we deem to be usable to go after conversion is being utilized, and with the lowest amount of work from the actual agent level user. And I guess that's the problem we identified, is that it's just too much work. There's too many things to get done in real estate, and somebody had to come in and try to help. And I guess that's kind of the niche that we filled.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and I want to go a little deeper on that, because one of the things that we know for any entrepreneur, and real estate agents are entrepreneurs, and many times they build teams and they build organizations, and yet almost 100% of the time it's follow-up. And in real estate, this gets magnified because people start looking for houses, and sometimes they're ready to buy today. Sometimes it's 6 months from now, and sometimes it's much longer. And, we were talking earlier, and I really want you to talk to this. You guys have built a system, and it's a follow-up system. It's an automated follow-up system. It's a very interactive automated follow-up system. And yet it still requires the user, if you may, to be engaged in it. It's not like you could put it on autopilot. So you shared some things which were just eye-opening for me about some case studies, some recent clients where the touches in the time frame on some of these leads that have turned into deals. I'm not sure real estate agents understand the gold that's there, but what you may have to go through to get there. So talk to us about that, and about some of those case studies you talked about earlier today.
All right. So several years ago at this point, about 3.5 years ago, let's say, while we were still in the early phases of what we're doing now, we created a Google lead. The lady calls us. We're in Clearwater, Florida, by the way. So anyways, lady calls from a Google ad, or she clicks, logs in. Our dialer calls, gets in touch with this woman from New York. This person gets on the phone. We tag them as an out-of-state buyer, which is very common down here in Florida. and got her set up on a custom search. Everything was all good. The instructions at the end or the script at the end of that call is, hey, I'll reach back out in just a couple of days to see if I need to make some adjustments to that search. And a couple of days later, the person reaches out. We keep reaching out. We give people call lists or call filters. And then there's action plans that run that deliver text and email. So bottom line is this lady never responded again at all. She didn't answer anything for 3 full years. So just as COVID was, I don't know that it was ending or whatever, but as New York was opening up and they now had the ability to travel down here, this woman reached out here. Mike's wife, Patty, took the call and she said, hey, you've been following up with me for some time. I'm going to fly down to Florida and I'd like to go take a look at some places. Okay. So anyways, Mike let me know that happened because he looked at the lead and the lead was 3 years old. So this is the kind of nerdy stuff that we dig into to make our systems better. But so we're like, all right, so we start digging into it. Well, it was 138 touches in between that first conversation and the conversation that said that she was coming back down here. Wow. So that gets me excited, right? So anyways, the lady comes down here. I reach out to Mike to talk to Patty to find out, what's going on. So she says, so we call her up. She's out showing houses. I said, hey, how's it going? She's like, oh, it's awesome. I'm in a penthouse condo right on the beach here in Clearwater, over $1 million, which is a big price point for us down here in Florida. It's not like California. Yeah. So anyways, and she says, well, that's awesome. Over $1 million for after a lead that you didn't have to do anything with for 3 years. She's like, no, it's better. They have another penthouse suite that somebody in the family had passed away. Yeah. And there was a squatter family member who stayed in this place and they were smoking cigarettes in it, doing all kinds of whatever, but the house was trashed. The penthouse condo on the beach was trashed. So anyways, Patty got the listing on that and she got the buy side. And I think it was like $1.8 million in total from that one deal. And I can tell you with 100% certainty, we've seen thousands of things just like that. And right, just to sum it up, the problem with real estate agents and the term that these leads suck, right? And if you've ever said that and you're an agent and you've said that, then you're probably also, you were wrong in that probably. And what it was is the expectation that lead should be ready when you were ready. That's what sucks.
Well, and first of all, here's the thing that was eye-opening to me. 3 years. How many real estate agents in their business truly follow up with a lead for 3 years? That's number one. Number two is the amount of touches that were a part of that process. And, frankly, many agents, because that's a world I'm involved with as well, after one, maybe two follow-ups of calls, that's the action they have to take. They stop. And in this case, if you took a $2 million volume and, on an average commission, that's $50,000 to $60,000, which basically is $20,000 a year just for that, if you took the 3 years that you were engaging with them. Yep. So your system does this and that's why the system is so helpful and why when we started talking almost a year ago, I got so excited about working with y'all because as a real estate agent for a number of years, it's just a blind spot that we all have. And I have a perspective, guys, that somebody doesn't opt in and give you their information, in this case for real estate related things, unless they have some type of need or some type of service or some type of question, they're not going to give up that contact information. So, it may be today, tomorrow, next month, next year. And that's why I so love what you all do. So I want to shift gears on you just a little bit. And I'm going to ask you both the next two questions, and I've prepared you for this. So in your journey of business and life, what's the best advice that you've ever been given that hopefully you followed? And if you did follow it, what did you learn? So what's the best advice you've ever been given and what did you learn?
So for me, the best piece of advice is finding balance, right? And this works for anybody, any industry, wherever you're at, in business, especially if you run your own business. Balance is by far probably the most important thing. That's key, right? Being able to balance work and life and personal, taking care of yourself, taking care of your family, but also taking care of your work. It's really easy to get out of balance. It's really easy to let one thing take priority or maybe not focus on other things because they require more work.
Right.
But balance, that would be probably the biggest piece of advice that I've ever gotten that, really helps keep you navigate it in the right direction.
Josh,
Yeah.
how about you?
I've had lots of things like this, but I can say probably one of the things that I remember quite a bit. I was working as a bouncer in Chicago at a restaurant bar, and this lady.
And you've done a lot of things in your life. I'm just saying, we only know about half of them.
No, that's a different story for a different video. But anyway, this woman who saw me, and I'm a friendly guy, I'm talkative and all that good stuff. And she was with one of the bigger financial brokerages, Goldman Sachs, I think. And she told me, she said, you're not where you're supposed to be. I said, what do you mean? She says, well, there's something better for you than this. Like you are underperforming. It was a bar she was drinking. So basically she was just telling me that I need to surround myself with people who do the things that I should be doing, that kind of thing. Basically, she's telling me, get the hell out of the bar.
Right.
Many of you that are in, brokers or team leaders, and a lot of times, if you haven't done this in the past, you might think about it, recruiting people from bars, because a lot of bars, restaurants, they're multitaskers. They're generally friendly, salesy type people, trainable. But anyways, that's the thing that stuck out to me. And it just made me think, like, should I be in this bar, like putting my life in jeopardy to break up a fight in a bar that might happen?
Right.
Well, I personally can't fight anyway. So what the hell am I even doing here? But anyways, I thought about that. And then very shortly thereafter, I went and got back into sales and back into doing what it is that I actually love to do, which led me down the path that put me right here in front of you guys now. So I don't even know her name, but thank you for that.
I love it. Well, and you touched on something, and it's absolutely true. Folks who work in the hospitality industry, pretty much no matter where they work within that industry, many of them have moved on from that industry into real estate, into those opportunities, and been very successful. So that's really, that's a great point for people to take away. So I've prepared you both for this. We're going to flip it upside down. I ask every one of our guests the best advice, and then I say, okay, tell us the absolute worst advice that you've ever been given that hopefully you didn't follow, you didn't follow it. However, if you followed the bad advice, what did you learn? So what's the worst advice, and what did you learn if you followed it, and what did you learn if you didn't follow it?
Somebody told me to go get that job at that bar. No, I think probably the worst advice that I had was, and I can't say exactly who it was, but I played football and potentially had some scholarship activity going on. I hurt my back. And basically the overall idea was, if you're not going to play college football, then you don't need to go to college. So get to work. I probably went down the wrong path at that moment when I took that advice. And luckily, as I just told, it reverted and I ended up here anyway, probably where I was going to be. But that was probably the worst thing, which had me, pegged as supposed to be this football type thing or whatever. And because you couldn't do that, now you might as well give up on your brain, which is going to get you through the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah.
So for me,
that's not very good advice, and thank goodness you didn't listen to it.
Right, yeah, exactly. So there we go. We got the buttons.
We had to bring the buttons in at some point. I knew they were coming.
Had to. It could have been the screaming goat.
Yeah, I got that too.
Yeah. One of my biggest, I don't know that there's any one person, but I know that people can relate to this. It's like limiting beliefs or limiting mindset, right? So like sometimes people will tell you you can't do something or you shouldn't do something because maybe they doubt their self, right?
Right.
So for me, just, past and history and things that, brought me here, sometimes you can come in contact with people who kind of want to limit, or put, well, you can't go that far. You can't do that much. You can't dream that big.
Right.
And so for me, I don't know that it's one person that, maybe said something like this, but I think people can relate that you come into contact with people that maybe because they have a limiting belief or, mindset restriction, that they try to put that off onto you. And for me, it's always trying to guard that and protect against that, knowing that, the best thing we can do is continue to innovate and thrive and
Right.
look at it like no ceilings, right? So just
Right.
trying to stay away from being boxed in, I guess, is one of those things that
I want to revise mine.
you want to do.
I do.
mulligan?
I
Revise
want to
yours.
change. I want a
Okay.
mulligan.
This
Yeah.
doesn't surprise me at the least bit. Okay, go ahead.
So I went too far back with that. I can give a better example that actually started or happened after Mike and I started going down this path and doing what we're doing. And this was, it's hard. Like what we were talking about before, for your families, for your people that you're around that are watching you go through it. It's tough, right? When you're not making money, because there's what we did is, and we kind of talked about this earlier. We came into Sierra Interactive and then we started building things out. And it took a long time to master Sierra to a point where we felt comfortable having people pay us and trust us to make it work for them. And at a point in that process, some people very close to me sat me down and literally told me I should go work at Walmart at night. And I was like, are you crazy? I'm like, because I have this dream in my head and Mike and I see this vision and it's clear as day and we're not going to give it up. Right. But these people can't see it. Right. And so I did not take that advice. And I actually told them on that day, I said, I was like, look, I said, I appreciate it, guys. I get it. It's like an intervention that we were having here on this thing. I said, but I'm going to make sure that you guys remember that that's the dumbest thing you've ever said to anybody in your whole life. Yeah. And that is the most important thing that I did not take that
advice. Yep.
Well, and Josh, it happens all the time, right? People always want to limit us because they see themselves in a certain way and they feel like that's the way they should see everybody else. And my advice as a coach and consultant over the years is you always got to look at who you're surrounding yourself with. And if you're surrounding yourself with people that are either less than you or challenge where you're at, you're probably not surrounding yourself with the right people. And so I love that. And I'm glad that you didn't listen to that advice. So guys, I'm going to do a little PSA here, and then I'm going to ask you for a final thought before we sign off. So ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you so much for tuning in and supporting us and sharing the message of the Success Ascent. We love doing this. It's a passion project for me. And yet I know it's impacting people's businesses and their lives because of the feedback that we get. So if you do want to share it, go to www.thesuccessascent.com or patmancuso.com. Either place you can pick up the podcast, or go to your favorite podcast source, subscribe, any place where you can leave a review or a rating. We love that because that helps us grow the show. So Josh and Mike, as we close out here, I'd love one final thought that you'd leave with folks with before we sign off. And I don't care who goes first as long as there's no button pushed.
He's going to do it.
I think I can get in there.
There you go.
The final thought would be, as far as advice goes, like, first of all, understand that as far as pertains to lead generation, follow-up, middle of the funnel, lead enrichment, educating and informing your database of people, A, don't give up or you're never going to get to that 138 touch count, right? B, try to make the most efficient use of your time on every single thing that you're doing throughout your day. Time wasted is time gone, right? So that, and in order to do that, having strategy and structure to all those things. So your database, you can, and no matter where you're at, you can segment your database down based off statuses or stages or whatever that particular system calls it. Having clear definitions, almost like a clear job description of what you're supposed to be doing. This is what you do to this status of leads, and then stick to it. Create a system and stick to it. And the results will come as long as you're willing to keep putting in the work.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is just stay committed, right? Whatever it is, the path that you choose, stay committed, be flexible. I would say that's a big part. Like, be flexible in what you do. Be willing to lean into some of those failures. Be willing to readjust. Be willing to stop and take a step back and say, are we on the right trajectory, or do we need to change something about what we're doing?
Right.
And be willing to get in. And for anyone out there who's in business, which I know most of your audience is, Pat, just be willing to take an honest look at what you're doing operationally and where you can make adjustments to continue to grow. Because if you don't, you're going to continue to hit ceilings. And if you really want to break through them, it's going to require you to do things differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's for sure.
Absolutely. You can't break through the ceiling unless you do something differently. Well, Mike, Josh, thank you so much for time today. I truly am grateful to have a relationship with you as clients, and also grateful you decided to join the show today and you provided me the studio to do it. I love it. And so, ladies and gentlemen, what I always say before I end my show is, first of all, we always love the guests and having them take their time. So if you do have interest in anything that GGMS provides, you can reach out to us or you can reach out to them. Otherwise, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again, Josh and Mike, for your time today. And be safe, be healthy, and be happy. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.